Hi, thanks for clicking on this video. We're here at Trinity Wesleyan Church so that we can unleash hope to those around us, and that includes you. So thank you for being a part of what's going on in our church, even through technology. We hope that this video is a blessing to you, and at the end, you're going to see some next steps and ways that you can get involved even after this video is done.
Your future is shaped by the choices you make today. The Bible offers wisdom to guide you through life's decisions. It is a tool that makes the difference between life and death, joy or despair. The wisdom of the Bible is your compass for life's journey. When you plan ahead, you walk in the way of wisdom. Think ahead.
In the summer of 1830, Victor Hugo was facing an impossible deadline. 12 months earlier, the French author had promised his publisher a new book, but instead of writing, he spent that year pursuing other projects, entertaining guests, and ultimately procrastinating his work. So frustrated, Hugo's publisher responded by setting a deadline less than 6 months away. This book had to be finished by February of 1831. Hugo concocted a strange plan to beat his procrastination. He collected all of his clothes and asked an assistant to lock them away in a large chest. He was left with nothing to wear except a large shawl. Lacking any suitable clothing to go outdoors, he remained in his study and wrote furiously during the fall and winter of 1830. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was published 2 weeks early on January 14th, 1831. Human beings have been procrastinating for centuries. Even prolific artists like Victor Hugo are not immune to the distractions of daily life. The problem is so timeless, in fact, the ancient Greek philosophers like Socrates and Aristotle developed a word to describe this type of behavior. It's called akrasia. Akrasia is the state of acting against your better judgment. It's when you do one thing even though you should do something else. Loosely translated, you could say that akrasia is procrastination or lack of self-control. Akrasia is what prevents you from following through on what you set out to do. Why would Victor Hugo commit to writing a book and then putting off for over a year? But why do we make plans, set deadlines, commit to them, but then fail to follow through on them? The Bible even touches on this subject. The Apostle Paul writes to the Romans regarding sin and life in the 7th chapter of Romans to his letter to those in Rome who follow Jesus in verse 14. It's the same stuff we deal with today. It's the same stuff they struggled with in the Garden of Eden. It's the same stuff that people will deal with forever. Here's what the scripture says, Romans 7:14. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am of the flesh, sold under sin. For I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Now if I do what I do not want, I agree with the law. That is good. So now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is right, but not the ability to carry it out. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. While Paul is talking sin, and he's talking flesh and the good and evil, the sentiment remains. It's not just about sin, but it spreads out to every part of our lives. The sinful as well as the parts of our lives that are not sin. To paraphrase what Paul says, I do what I don't want to do, and I don't do what I should do. I mean, isn't that the problem of sin? Like, we want to not sin. It's the human condition. And here's what I hear most in the church. 95% of the conversations I have. This is a statement made by those people. I know, I should, but I haven't. I've been busy. I don't have time. I don't have resources. I'm not going to point anyone out, but we all have the same condition. It's acrosia. Going against your better judgment. I know I should, but I haven't. Or I know I shouldn't, but I do it anyway. Now, why am I bringing this up? Hello, it's now 2025. New year, new me. Most people that say new year, new me, by January 17th, their resolutions are trashed. Do you know what January 17th is actually called? It's called Quitter's Day. So many people quit their resolutions by January 17th that they named the day Quitter's Day. So many people quit that there's a day named for New Year's resolutions that fail. If that doesn't help you understand humans, I don't know what will. We quit because it's too difficult. We quit because it's not comfortable. We quit because we don't see the results. You begin to ask yourself, what is the point in trying? But I know there's some people out there who are thinking right now, I don't make New Year's resolutions, so you can't quit if you don't start. I've beat the system. I call bull honky on that. The only system you have beat is yourself. You have already quit for life on the things that will better your life. At least the other group actually tried to do something. Now that I've quite surely stepped on everyone's toes today, who is ready to get better? Now, I'm not just beating down on you for fun and going to leave you there. Also, I don't know if you know this, but I'm not perfect as well. I've quit my New Year's resolutions many years in a row. We're going to get brought back up together to get better. Brought back up together to get better. Better for yourself, better for your family, better for your relationships, better for your spiritual life, better for your friends, better for your purpose, better for those around you, better for your spiritual life, better for your goals and dreams, better for your city, better so that we can find the will of God and unleash hope. Now, are you ready to get better? Now, even now, just listening to me with some gusto, say, yes, I'm ready to get better. Now look at this emotional roller coaster you've been on today. You're up, now you're down, then you're up, and you're down. And here comes the loop. Everybody put your hands up. Actually, put your hands up. I didn't say Simon Says, because you're out. Everybody listening is out. If you put your hands up, you're all out. You didn't even know we were playing a game. This series is called Think Ahead, and I've been thinking ahead. I'm playing chess while you're playing checkers. I'm not going to mess with you anymore. I want you to take a moment and think of your dream scenario in life. Would you live where you live right now? Would you be driving the same car? Would you work where you work? Would you live how you live? And I bet your answers would be opposite of what you do and what you have right now. But think of those dreams. Think of those dreams right now. Just picture it. What's your dream vehicle, your dream house, where you're living? What do your finances look like? Just actually picture that right now. My dream vehicle is a 2025 Toyota 4Runner. It is lime green. It is the off-road edition. It is above and beyond anything I need, but it is super cool, and I want it. My dream house would be a modern design, very boxy with windows and a pool and a hot tub. It doesn't have to be a mansion. I don't like big houses. I think it's just pointless to have a huge house with nobody living there. But I just love modern square designs that are bright and airy. And that house would be in a dream city. I'd love to live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'd love to live there by the Wasatch Mountains, overlooking the city. I'd like to be on the edge, kind of like in the hills before the mountains, but you can overlook the whole city. My dream job, and this is kind of like, I'm pretty cool, but no, my dream job is being a pastor. I have my dream job. I love what I do and where God has called me to. One dream I have is to be in shape. I don't know if you can't tell, but this is photoshopped on. I don't have the dream body. I want. But here's what I would look like. Now, why don't I have these? I don't have the Toyota 4Runner for exactly what I want on the vehicle to get every single thing that I want. It'd be $75,000, which is only $1,350 a month. It gets 20 miles to the gallon on the highway, and I don't want to pay a mortgage for a vehicle and extra gas for a tank that you're driving. I have a small truck that gets 35 miles per gallon, and it fits my budget. I don't have a modern house because I can't afford it. They're easily $2 to $3 million. Getting one built is also expensive, where I would want to live if I lived on the edge of Salt Lake City, because you would have to get utilities out to the property. I don't live in Salt Lake City because God has me here in Dover. And I don't think about Salt Lake City. My purpose is here. Would it be cool when I retire? Yes, but I couldn't see myself doing anything anywhere else. I'm called to be a pastor. Why am I not in shape? Here's 2 reasons. It's the big reasons, okay? I love food and I like sitting down. I'd say those are my main 2 reasons, probably the only 2 reasons of why I'm not in shape. I love food and I'd rather sit down and not do anything. What I want to do in this first sermon in this series called Think Ahead is to help us understand why we don't follow through on our plan ahead in life. This is the overview and the reasoning for why we suffer from acrosia, why we don't do better, why we don't get better, why we say we will get better, but we don't. Because I would bet that if you could have a 6-pack, a full retirement, a dream car, dream house, in the place that you would want to live, you would have done it already if it were easy. And it's not easy. And if it was easy, everyone would do it. This series is going to be a series focused on many different aspects of life and go through what we struggle with, but also give you a plan to move forward. Before we think ahead, we need to find out what holds us back. Because when you think ahead without finding what holds you back, you get overwhelmed, you get beat down and discouraged when you try to do something new or something different. Jen has a motto that I've adopted, and this hits every area of life. Jen and I are not professional counselors or have the credentials to counsel. We have a class in pastoral care and counseling, but we are not licensed. That is above and beyond. That's a different area than what God has called us to. But a lot of times in the church, people will come up to us and ask us what they should do about anything in the world. And we enjoy getting to discuss and being a sounding board to bounce ideas off of and thoughts off of. That's a normal pastoral role. People ask us about finances, parenting kids, parenting teens. Jen was a youth pastor for 8 years, parenting your parents, job-related questions, social media, career goals, housing questions, dating and marriage advice. I mean, the list just goes on and on. We enjoy getting to hear from you and helping you make decisions that benefit you, your family, and most of all, your spiritual life. What we always come back to is this. This is Jen's motto that I've adopted. If it's not working, do something different. If it's not working, do something different. I've been through counseling multiple times, but I believe everybody should go through counseling to untangle the spaghetti of our lives and make it make sense. But the first counselor I went to, I told him what I was going through and that I felt depressed. And he would tell me every week for 4 weeks that I need to stop beating up on myself. And I'd ask, how do I stop beating up on myself? He just said, stop beating up on myself. Like, stop doing it to yourself. So after 4 visits of nothing, I stopped going. It wasn't helping. Stop telling me the same thing I'm telling you. It's not helping. So I didn't go back because I didn't want to waste more money. If it's not working, do something different. Find a different counselor. When people ask me about a potential job, if your job is not working, do something different. When people ask about money, if it's not working, do something different. If a relationship is not working, do something different. I'm talking about dating relationships or friendships. I'm not talking about marriage. For the most part, you are stuck with the person you married. Women, don't get any ideas. Men, Don't get any ideas. It is till death do you part. Women, I know that you want to kill your husband sometimes, and that would get you out of the till death do us part vow. But you now have a new vow behind bars. Don't do something stupid. Think ahead. If you have a friend, if a friend or dating relationship is not working, do something different. Change it up. If you don't have money, do something different with your money. Make more money, spend less. It's not someone else's job to fix your life. You have to own up to your life, and you have to be the one to make the change. No one else can do that for you. You can't play the victim and get better. You can't play the victim and be mature. The book of Galatians, in chapter 6, verse 2, it says, carry each other's burdens. And then in verse 5, it says, for each one should carry their own load. It's not talking the same thing. Burdens are what you are not meant to carry alone. Burdens are unforeseen. It was an accident. It was a natural disaster. You didn't know it was coming up. But your load is foreseen circumstances, your responsibility, and no one else's. That is your load you are meant to carry. You have to keep up on your car maintenance. You have to pay your bills. You have to do your laundry. You have to make sure you have a house for you and your family. You have to do that. That is your load. Your burden is anything above and beyond your normal load that every single person has to carry on their own. So now let's talk about the reasons we don't think ahead. There's 7 of them. So write them down or make a note in your phone, because they will change your life if you do the opposite of what I say. This is not a list to do. This is a list to don't do, okay? Do the opposite of these, okay? The very first one is we are reactive rather than proactive. When we are in reactive mode, we do not plan to perform tasks or meet objectives until we are asked to, or it is urgent. We do not respond appropriately, and therefore our reactive plans rarely work. Until we become proactive, we will have little interest in planning ahead. This becomes apparent in our finances. Instead of planning ahead, each bill comes out of a surprise and becomes a huge deal rather than careful budgeting and planning for emergencies. Did you know that 37% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency? 56% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency. 20% of Americans over the age of 50 have zero retirement savings. And only 35% of people are planning and saving regularly for retirement. It's a classic example of a poverty mentality, focusing on the day rather than seeing your money as your future life. This goes on to relationships as well. You look for relationships that fulfill an immediate need rather than a healthy relationship that will last a lifetime. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 21, verse 5, the wisest man who ever lived was given this wisdom by God, so you know it has to be good. It says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. It's not about just the day at hand, but the whole road ahead. Being reactive forces your hand into making decisions you normally would not make. When you pay for your wants first, then you beg for your needs. This is a reactive mentality. Being proactive puts needs above your wants. It's about thinking ahead and planning for the future, because quick decisions usually cost more in the long run. The second reason we don't plan ahead is we are not organized. We tend to want to be around people who are organized, though. You imagine this. Imagine a contractor comes to your house to do a project for you. Simple fix, maybe plumbing. You just have a little leak. And then they say, I bet I could learn how to do this. You're like, that's a red flag. Then they go look for their tools in their work truck. And they're out there for over an hour looking for a tape measure. You're like, red flag. You're already shutting down. You're looking for a new contractor. What about if you're getting ready to have surgery? What about a surgeon? You're getting ready for brain surgery, and the surgeon is making marks on your knee, looking for scalpels and looking for medicines. You would be nervous and not trust them. No, don't put me under. I'm not doing it. Like, you don't know what you're doing, it feels like. I don't like that. When you get into the operating room, you have everything laid out that they could need in a nice and orderly fashion. If you saw the surgeon looking up how to do brain surgery on YouTube, you'd be like, I'm running out of here. The doctors and nurses are waiting for you with a plan. They're organized for what will happen next. We don't think ahead because we're not organized. Number 3, we are not self-disciplined. Those who are self-disciplined create order in their personal and professional lives. They have the willpower to stick to their values and take the right actions based on the right plans. Without a well-developed plan, it is difficult to be self-disciplined. A success and self-improvement author, Ramez Sesson, said that self-discipline is not a severe and limited behavior or restrictive lifestyle. It's a very important ingredient for success, any form of success. When we lack self-discipline, we tend to avoid following through with our plans, which is another reason we don't like to plan ahead. We come to the conclusion that planning stops us from doing whatever we want to do. We forget doing whatever we want to do is different from what needs to be done. Without a good plan and self-discipline, we cannot do what is needed to do to get to where we want to go. Self-discipline is never easy. The things in life that are easy are hardly worth it. The parts of life that are difficult, the parts that stretch you, are the ones that move you toward your goals and dreams and ultimately toward the will of God. Third reason we don't think or plan ahead. We procrastinate. Weird. It's weird. I didn't finish this one. I figured I'd have more motivation than I thought I did. I just didn't do the 4th point, I guess. No, I'm joking. Like, wouldn't that feel weird if I didn't finish my sermon or the thoughts that come with it? Some people are good at making plans, but procrastinate about implementing the plans. Others procrastinate about planning ahead. We delay planning for success because we think that it's too early to plan. We're not ready, or we may not even need the plan at all. The more we procrastinate, the harder it is to come up with effective plans that lead to success. Procrastinating is planning to fail because you're not focusing on the most important parts of life and doing what is fun and doing what is easier. And you think you work better under pressure, but that adds unnecessary stress and anxiety to your life. We don't plan because we will do it tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes. The 5th reason we don't plan ahead. We don't know how to plan effectively. Planning ahead requires knowledge. There are tools for effective planning, but if we don't know them, we will not be a successful planner. Therefore, not knowing how to plan effectively results in a lack of interest in planning ahead. In Proverbs 13:16, it says, "Every prudent man acts with knowledge, but a fool flaunts his folly." You know anyone that flaunts their ignorance? Some people will argue against you without knowing any part of what they're talking about. Like, you might plan, but you may not be using the best way of planning. There are human plans and there are godly plans. So a couple chapters later in Proverbs 16:3, it says, "Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established." The most effective plan in planning ahead and thinking ahead is the one that focuses on God. Throughout Scripture, it talks about the heart being deceitful. But humans say, society says, follow your heart. Oh, don't follow your heart. Follow God. The heart goes for the easiest, quickest way of doing things. Number 6, we think planning is a waste of time. We normally don't do what we don't believe in. If we think that plans don't work and that planning ahead is a waste of time, you're right. What we focus on, we get what we focus on. We need to change our mindset and see planning as a necessary and important step. Thinking ahead is more important than the very next step. When people talk to me and they're looking for advice, I usually give them a couple next steps or different ideas. Some are short term, some are long term. You know how many people take those next steps? Very few. I'm not saying you have to listen to me and do everything word for word, but do something. Try something. The last reason we don't think ahead is, number 7, we are not patient. We're not patient enough. Some of us do not like planning. Some of us don't like planning is that we are too hasty and we can't wait for the plans to come to fruition. We just want to jump right into the execution part without a plan in mind. And this attitude to planning results in incomplete plans, low productivity, and losing out. Do you know how long it takes to get out of debt? Do you know how long it takes to get in shape? Do you know how long it takes to follow God's will? A lifetime. It's not a quick get-rich scheme. It's not overnight. It's not focused on small fixes, but an overhaul of everything you do to make sure that the plans are worth it in the end. It's an everyday, not an every or right at that minute. When I was in driver's ed in high school, I had been playing video games like NASCAR, Need for Speed, Mario Kart, Diddy Kong Racing while I was growing up on like N64, all the way through the original Xbox. My parents got me and my brother a steering wheel and pedals, so we could play with that instead of the controller. And I don't know why, but I always tried to keep my car or go-kart in the lines while using the steering wheel. So naturally, when I get in the driver's seat in driver's ed, I was a natural. I got to do extra things of driving that others did not get to do. There was another student in the car though. I don't remember her name. I was too scared to know who she was because I was just trying to stay alive. So she's in the driver's seat, teacher in the passenger seat, and I was in the back seat, scared for my life. I can't count the number of cars we almost sideswiped or rear-ended. And I tell you what, I learned to pray in the backseat of that car. The teacher finally looked over at the girl and asked where she was looking, and she said she was looking at the road in front of her. She was looking down the hood of the car at the road right in front of her car. No wonder we almost died so many times. She wasn't looking ahead. She wasn't planning ahead. She was not looking for potential obstacles in the way because she was focused on 10 feet in front of her. If you don't think ahead, you'll be only focused on 10 feet in front of you. You'll be sideswiping cars and only focus on today. Proverbs 27:12 says, "The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it." You might be scared to move forward because of the danger of the unknown, but focusing on God and the way forward is the only way to avoid danger. Think ahead. Do the opposite of these 7 things, and you will usher in the godly wisdom that He has set before us.